Hello there.
Hi there, Angelo.
I'm Angelo John Lewis for the Sacred Inclusion Network, and I'm here with Harrison Snow, who will be the facilitator of our online community exploration on Saturday, the 18th at 11 a.m. And let me tell you about a little bit about Harrison, and then we'll just get right to it. And I'm reading here. Harrison is a director of Change Dynamics International, and he's been helping government, corporate, and nonprofit clients in 28 countries, helping them manage to change, develop leaders, and enhance organizational performance. He's the author of 4 well-regarded books, most notably, or I should say most recently, Confections of a Corporate Shaman, Healing the Organizational Soul. And Harrison has I'm delighted that he's going to facilitate our online community exploration. And I thought I'd tell you a little bit about get Harrison to tell us a little bit about what he's going to talk about. I've given this title Spiritual Constellations. I don't know if Harrison would agree with that title, but anyway, that's what I did. I thought it sounded sort of interesting anyway. So Harrison, let's get started. I don't think anybody knows too well. Only a minority of people know about system constellations or spiritual constellations. So before you tell me what it is, why don't you tell me a little bit about how you got involved in it?
Hey, great question, Angelo. I love that question. Back in 1999, I think, back before the internet was really going, you get stuff in the mail back in those days, remember? And I got a flyer in the mail. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it found me, but it said, down at the 4-H club in DC, there was going to be this guy named Bert Hellinger from Germany, and he was going to do something called Family Constellations. So I went, and it knocked my socks off, quite frankly. There were about 100 people there, and most of them from Europe, because they came over wanting to work with Bert, and it was well-known work in Europe, but not here in the US. But Bert said, no, I'm going to work with the local people. And so I got a chance to work with him and see what he did. That seemed like magic. I'm like, I don't understand what's happening here, but I see and feel change happening right in the room. Right? I mean, you can feel it when something is significant is shifting for a person, yourself, or another person. It's a visceral, not a conceptual, but a visceral sense of things. And so how in the heck is he doing this? I'm very curious. And he came back, I think the following year, I went again, and I was thinking this would be fantastic. We're all about, and back then I was working with change. This seems a very, very effective way for personal change. Maybe it can work with group or organizational change. But I think people would never do it. But I saw a book on working organizationally, bringing this method, and I looked in there, and there was a conference in Holland in 2 weeks. I was on the plane there.
Wow.
It was 100 people, and I just changed my life. That week-long training conference, that intensive, I think they call it. So I came back all fired up and have been doing it ever since. Started a group. Now it's a meetup group, but started a group for Chesapeake Bay Organizational Development Network, and probably have done facilitated a lot of constellations through that group, and then through my work with coaching clients and organizations. And this is a tool because it is a little bit out there. It's often a great tool for a consultant as a background tool. You might not go in and do it right with the group, might not be appropriate. But it's great if you have the mandate to see what's going on, and that's what our work is about. That's why they hire us, right? Yeah. The client, individual or group, wants to see some kind of change and doesn't know what's blocking it, doesn't know what the problem is really. That's why they pay us the big bucks. This is a great tool for the coach or the organizational change specialist.
We should stop there because we could talk about Bert. I didn't realize you studied with the master. I'm very familiar with his work, and not as much as you are, especially as voices. Sometimes I use voices with my clients, my coaching clients. But in any event, probably most people that are listening to this have no idea what Constellations work is. So why don't you give us like a quick summary of what it is?
Okay. Well,
first of all, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. The quickest summary is there's information everywhere, right? And where's that information? Basically, any physical system has a field. The Earth has electromagnetic field. Do you see it? No. Do I see it? No. Is it essential to the functioning of the physical system? Yes. We wouldn't be here without that field. Life wouldn't exist. We are physical systems, right? And we have different parts, but each part has its own field, and the whole system has its own field. So an individual has a field, a family has a field, a group has its own field, a nation has its field, and everything that happened relative to that system is an impression on the field. So I might not remember what happened in my early childhood, but my body remembers. And what is my body remembering? It's remembering the information in the field. Mm-hmm. Epigenetics is really an exciting field that's showing that this stuff can happen in way back in generations and still be passed on epigenetically in a person and affect their behavior and their possibilities in many ways. But it's unconscious. And as long as it's unconscious, we're victims of, we don't see it, we're blind. But if we can bring it to awareness, we can mitigate, address, shift. Something new can arise when we bring it to awareness, if we're willing to bring it to awareness. And this is a great tool to do that.
So a constellation, just to be a little bit more maybe specific, is it consists of the field. A constellation maybe is another word for field, which can be your family, your ancestors,
right.
the system that you're a part of, whether it's an organizational system, a family system, any type of system.
Yeah, and if you've got a human nervous system, you have the ability to read what's in the field. The only kicker is you got to get your mind out of the way,
right? Because
your mind does not work that way. It's conceptual. It doesn't have non-conceptual knowing. It only has conceptual knowing, and it defends through various things, judgments, conceptual, trying to figure things out. It'll keep you from accessing the field.
So I know this is a broad question, but you've been doing this for a while, so you know that we're the Sacred Inclusion Network. So
yeah.
What is, and there's a sort of a implicit spiritual bias, I guess I'll call it, undertaking most of the work that we do and the people that we invite. My question to you is, what is spiritual about this constellation thing, which I've called spiritual constellations, kind of a little bit arrogantly, I suppose.
Well, Angelo, I love that question. I really do, because I see everything as spiritual, right? Everything that's seen, that's physical, has an unseen component. That's where it comes from. Anything in your life that you see has an unseen component that's showing up physically. So we know that, I'm sure in terms of, we look at the world, or our spiritual, the more expanded view of the world. There's a superconscious, right? There's the conscious, where I'm the conscious of you, you're conscious of me, and then there's the subconscious. Most people only operate in that one dimension, conscious, right? So that's a very limited way to operate. Now, if we come enthralled with the superconscious and spiritual bypass everything and try to live up there, then we're ungrounded and things don't work too very well. If we're caught up in and don't know it, the collective conscious, the subconscious, and overwhelmed by that material, that's not very good either, right? We need all three. So true spirituality is that intersectionality of all three domains and the ability to stay in balance and tune in and operate there, but know that's not your true self. Your true self is beyond the content of your consciousness. And I'll explain a little bit more of that. But that's in a nutshell why I love that question.
Yeah, and to some extent, there's that which is we're unconscious of that affects us. If we're not conscious of it, we can't really move beyond it, which is
absolutely
like sort of a crude way of putting it, but I think it's true. Even a very conventional psychologist would admit to that.
Oh yeah.
So we're going to be doing something on the 18th. What could people expect coming to our little event that you're kind enough to host for us?
Well, since we are a spiritual group, and it seems to me people are interested in spirituality, we could expect to explore what that means to be spiritual, and how do I deepen my connection to spirituality as a spiritual person. What is the essence of that? And the essence, it comes down to, as you know, the great spiritual questions are: who am I? Who am I? Why am I here? What's this reality, and how do I impact the reality that I'm creating? Is reality co-created, or is it all up to me, or is it all karma? Right? These are the great spiritual questions, and they're important because, as you know, in many spiritual traditions, life can be suffering. People get caught in suffering. And part of the reason for that is that we're identifying with the contents of our consciousness, the contents of our awareness. Now, that content is thought and feeling. Thoughts change, feelings change. It comes, it goes. That's not who we really are. But if we identify with it, we work at that with that conscious, that kind of operating system, we have very limited options in change and growth, because we believe our story, and our story really is just a story. We believe those thoughts, we believe those feelings, we act from those thoughts and feelings. A whole shift into another operating realm, an expanded consciousness, super consciousness, gives us freedom. We don't have to believe those stories, those thoughts and feelings, and stay caught and trapped in them, and then keep recreating the reality that we're most struggling against, which can be, as you know, it's a form of suffering. Insanity, you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, because you have the same beliefs, the same feelings, and you identify with them and act on them. Now, if we can step back and notice the contents, but not identify with it. Gee, I'm angry. No, wait a minute. I'm having feelings of anger. Gee, I think that person thinks I, is a blah, 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 well, labels. No, I'm having judgments. And there's some judgments here. Let me step back and see those judgments. So I don't identify and act from my anger, my judgments, my pain. I notice I have it, but it's not me. It's a whole shift in perspective. So what is me? Well, there's a field where you are showing up. And in that field is pure awareness, expanded awareness. And that's what's called the absolute. And that's the field we can step into, that we call it the knowing field. But it's the field of all fields, the unified field, the quantum field. There is a field of all fields, which is free of content, but holds all the other smaller fields that make up the universe. And we have access to that. And then we can see what's there from that place of non-identification and make what shifts, are needed to help us be more whole and freer of the limiting constrictions that are running our life. So that's true spirituality in my mind, because we're finding and working with our true self, that expanded place of no content, just being, just pure awareness. There couldn't even be anything more spiritual about that.
Well, I mean, it sounds beautiful. I'm hoping it's at least 50% experiential, because, all these things are easy to talk about, but to see them and to feel them is another order. And that's hopefully what we're
well, here's the trick. Here's the trick. First of all, it's really helpful if someone comes to this and they know what their question is, what the pattern is that they want to shift, or the relationship they want to improve, or something going on with their career or their family, and they're able to articulate it in a couple sentences.
Yeah.
They don't get lost and identified with their story. They say, here is what I'm doing. Right? The I is no content, but the subject object, they can operate from there and not just be overwhelmed by the content of their story. That's really helpful. We can work with that pretty quickly to set up what's going on in the system, and then ask people to represent different parts and what needs, and they will just be able to tune in. We don't know why, but they are, and provide information they don't know, but will make sense to the client, the person that's working. And then my job as the facilitator is to help orchestrate that help you and the people who are helping the client access, make sense of the field, and then exit it so they don't carry any of that with them.
That's beautiful. I'm really looking forward to it. I've had an opportunity to participate in several of these kind of things like this, and I can tell you that they're truly magical and very transformative.
Yeah.
And I'll just simply say that our event is on Saturday the 18th at 11 a.m. I will post the link along with this video, and hopefully you'll join us. And
Great. I'll be there.
Yeah, Harrison, I really appreciate you taking the time this morning, and I'll see you Saturday.
All right, Angelo. Thanks so much.
All right, my friend.
Have a great week. Take care.